All right. Yeah, started recording. Fantastic. Okay, so you're able to see my screen, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. So today we are going to take a look at a few things. So one is how to create a 3D box. I'm just typing it out right here. Okay. And second, how to create different components. And three, how to do the layout. And four, how to take or how to export these into images. Okay. So anything else that you want me to cover before we start? So different components, we're going to take a look at all the different components, meeples, board, cards, tokens, all of them.
Just
Prajwal has joined. Nice.
one question. So will it also cover like different views like front, back, rotation, this kind of stuff?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. So since you can already see my screen, this is actually one of the 3D models that we made for Karigare Taj. And this was
So,
when I discovered how to use, you know, the free tools which are available and uh, use it to our advantage. I don't think this was the main reason why they have made these tools. So this is what you can actually do. And when I said, okay, so we don't have the backside of the box, so it's blank, but this is what you can actually do. And it's crazy. And the beauty about it is you can take in any angle you want. You can take a photo like this. You can export it as a transparent image. You could zoom in onto the components and take an image of this. It's up to you. It's crazy versatile. Okay. So you can actually choose what kind of things you want, like PNG, JPEG, stuff like that. So there are a couple of things I had to figure out by experimentation to see what is the best configuration to use to export a clean image. Okay. So there are things like, you can put a grid and it says transparency here, but it doesn't actually save it transparent. It saves with a black background.
okay.
Yeah.
So do it also includes that kinds of puzzle kind of things which like stack into one another and form a piece, like you said, the trees in photosynthesis.
Those are actually very easy to make. I can show you that as well. That's super easy to
Okay.
make. I know why you're asking this. Cool. So, yeah,
Falgun,
I mean,
just sorry, but what is the name of the tool before you go into it?
yeah. So we'll dive into that. I'll explain one by one.
Okay,
There
cool.
you will have to play around with 3, 4 different tools to get the output, but they're very easy to use. So, I think I delayed this session by almost a couple of months. Should have done it long ago. But yeah, so I will take you through, like, handhold you through the entire process. Don't worry, we have an hour to go. Yeah. All right. So all these tools are tools which are available for free on the Windows Store. Okay. So the different tools that we'd be using today is this one particular one is called a 3D viewer. Okay. This is again, it's a free tool. I think it comes already built into your Windows right now. The second tool which I'll be using is called the 3D builder. Okay. This is also a free tool which you get on Windows. Okay. This is a Windows tool itself. Extremely powerful tool. I don't know why it's not more widely used than the other tools, because generally when they say 3D modeling, you only think about Blender and stuff like that. So just give me 1 second. Yeah. All right. So 3D builder. Let me just close this. You'll get an idea of how it looks. Okay. So this is the starting screen of 3D builder. Okay. Um, Before we dive into designing a 3D model, what I want to understand from you is the different types of components that you would want to take a look at. Okay, so I get an idea that we touch upon all of them. Yeah. So I'll just open one of these models which we have already done. And believe me, I have done millions of models in this. I mean, if you actually look at all of these are all models which I have done for, uh, it could be product images for the website and stuff like that. And, it's super easy to use. It's ridiculously easy to use this particular tool. Okay. All right. So this is one thing. Now, you might be wondering, how did I model this 3D model in the first place, right? So we're not going to dive into such complex things where I'm going to show you how to make these grooves and stuff like that, but I will show you basic things, like for example, making a custom meeple or something like that, right? So those things I will definitely show you. Yeah. Okay. So let's start off with the basic, right? Let's start with making a box, for example. Okay, so is it okay if I pick my games itself because I have all the artwork ready, or you want me to pick something randomly from Board Game Geek and show you?
No, no, it's okay. Whatever is convenient.
Okay, super cool. So I'll just make one. So before we start making the particular box, we need to understand the dimensions. So when you make the box, right, it'll be perfectly accurate. Okay, so let me just open Photoshop. Uh, just to get an idea of what is the dimension of the cover image and the sides of the box and things like that. So when you uh, add that as the paste it onto the box, it's nice and clean, right? Okay. So let me just pull up the cover image. Just give me 1 second. Yeah. So, like for example, we have this particular box art. Okay, I'm just opening it 1 second. Yeah. So this is the box art, like time pass thing that we did, just so that it serves the purpose for our Kickstarter campaign, right? Now I want to get the image dimensions for this in centimeters or millimeters because that's the dimension that the app uses, right? So it's 266 by 266.7, correct? So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to insert a box and then I can set the dimension for this, right? So in this 3D modeling tool, when you click on add or insert or something like that, you get lot of options. Okay, but these are very basic type of models. Okay, in 3D modeling, it's not about using one particular model. I mean, it's all about you making your own custom model, right? So you can make any model that you want with a combination of all of these components, like a sphere, a cylinder, blah blah blah. And the beauty about 3D modeling is, I mean, I'm teaching you like how I would teach, a newbie to 3D modeling. So, you can add pieces to this and you can subtract pieces. Like for example, you want a hole in this, you have to just uh, like for example, let me just show you. Control C, Control V. I'll just make a small version of this. So all your typical controls work in this, like for example, holding shift and pulling it up and stuff like that. Okay, so these are the handles for you to move it left, right, and center. Now in this particular software, it has snapping to axes. Okay, so that makes your life a lot more easier. So like for example, I don't have to break my head about placing this exactly in the center of this axis. See that it's already snapping, right? So that's one of the advantages of this particular software. It doesn't happen in other 3D modeling software where it snaps to a particular axis or a grid. Okay, now this is another setting that you will notice where once it reaches the top of the surface of the bottom square, right, I can't push it any more further. Okay, so now that is actually a setting here which says enable collision. Okay, if you disable collision, this thing will go right through. How cool is that, right? Now, as I said, assume that I want to make a hole here. All I have to do is I have to just go to edit and say subtract. Tada! Now there's a hole. It's as simple as that. 3D modeling is just a combination of these actions. Uh, Actions, or I don't know what is the terminology used in 3D modeling, but you get what I'm saying. So now let's get back to designing the box, right? So now you'll have to decide whether you want to place it flat on the table or you want to make it stand. Okay, so let's assume that we'll make it stay flat on the table. Okay, so this particular dimension, x and y axis, is 266.7. Don't worry about how it looks on the screen. You can zoom in, zoom out, and all that. It's very, very user friendly, right? Okay. Now I don't know the side width of it. Let me just pull it up. Yeah, 88.9. Okay. It doesn't have to be super accurate, but okay. It's good because since it allows decimal places, might as well use it. All right. So this box is done. Now you might be wondering what if it's on in midair or something like that, right? What you can do is you can select the object and say settle. Okay, it will settle on the surface of the table. Right now I have disabled the grid and everything. Let me just enable it for you so you get an idea. Okay, now this, until this, you guys got it right? No questions till now?
Yeah, and the shadow is generated automatically, is it?
Right. So it creates a shadow automatically that you can't disable it, but I mean, it actually doesn't affect. I'll show you in a bit. You'll realize. Okay. So till now you
So,
understood, right? You find the dimensions, make the rectangular box, and you're good to go.
yeah.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
Falgun, as you mentioned, there is an option to keep the objects midair also, not necessarily on the on.
Absolutely. So
Cool.
you can, but since you're doing a layout, you're laying out the entire game.
Yeah.
Uh, you would want it to be as a reference, as a frame of reference. You would want to make all of them settle on a table,
Right. Too. Yeah. Yeah.
right?
I just
So
had some other layout in mind also. If the
got it.
midair option is also available, then that will
Absolutely.
also
Everything. So you just push it up. I mean, as simple as that, right?
cool. Yeah.
Yeah. So, okay. Photoshop takes a ton of RAM. I'm just going to close this. Yeah. So, I mean, if you actually enable collision, right? Uh, the first time when you enable it, it doesn't work. So you will have to say, settle or something like that. And it's very cool. This tool is like super cool. See, it actually behaves so, the physics is just amazing, right? How cool is that? Now, this is the fun part. So if you want to add the particular image, a custom image, right? You go to paint, right? Oh, here, this is the way you start adding textures or whatever to the particular thing, right? So you can choose a metal color if it's going to be a solid cube or a solid box, right? But we want a wonderful image on it, right? So what I'm going to do is it gives you options: material, color, and texture. I choose texture. Okay. In 3D modeling, texture means image. Okay, that's the image that you're going to be pasting on it. Okay, so I go here, I can choose my image wherever it is. Let me see if okay, it's not there. Okay, you're seeing my folder structure. It is horrible. Don't laugh. Let me hide it. Okay, just give me 1 second. Huh. So, la 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 la. Okay, I'm here. All right. So I have selected the file. Okay. This is the file I have chosen. The Karigaritaj box top, whatever. Right. Open. I have to just paint it. That's it. See that? How cool is that? Right. Now, for the sides, all I have to do is just choose the respective side images and start pasting it. That's it. It's as simple as that. Look at that
So it automatically identifies the
side.
size
So
and
you have this thing called coverage. Okay. If you do
okay.
full coverage, it'll paste it all over the box, all around. That
Oh,
is one thing you'll have to look out for. So what I want is just the surface. So the coverage, I'm just keeping it at like 25, 27 or whatever.
okay.
And it does the job for me.
Right.
Cool, huh? Now, let me just finish all the sides so you get an idea. Sometimes what happens is it inverts. Okay. When it inverts, you will have to do some jugaad to get an image, which is ulta. That's it.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm done with the box.
Wow.
Right? Yeah.
Falgun, is there an option to make the box edges a bit rounded and not
It
very
actually
sharp?
will look rounded when you import it. There is a way to do it, but it messes when you add the texture because the corners he'll
Ah,
just leave it as a white border or something
understood.
like
Yeah.
that. So since you asked, I am definitely going to show you that. I'm glad that you asked. That is a kind of attention to detail we also look at, right? So this particular box, once it is done, I can rotate it, do whatever I want, and take a photo. Okay. So since we have just created this, let me save it as I'll save it on the desktop so it's easy. Okay. So when you save the file, right, you have to save it as a 3MF. Okay. This is the default file format for the 3D models which you design in this particular app. Okay. And it's a very versatile file format. Luckily, my 3D printing software also picks up this particular format. So it gives me a lot of freedom. And I'll show you another awesome thing about 3D Builder. Uh, which actually saves a lot of effort for you when you're making custom 3D shapes. Okay, it actually repairs your 3D models. If you have goofed up with the 3D model, it repairs it for you. It's beautiful. All right, so I've saved that. Now you want to take a picture of this particular thing. Right now it is sleeping. All right, I'll quickly show you how it looks. I'll just open it up in the software which I just told you, which is 3D viewer. Okay, right? So when you open it in 3D viewer, right, it chooses a light where it is to the side for some reason. Okay. So after a lot of trial and error, like moving the lights around, you can choose your intensity and all of that stuff. But what I have learned is, unfortunately, all these settings for the lights are only for the side lighting for some reason. None of them are for top lighting. I don't understand why this particular app is designed like that, but unfortunately, that's how it is. So what I have figured out is simple streamlined processes. I just select this particular setting, which is a default preset. Okay, so you click on this, it lights it up wonderfully. Okay, now you go to File, Export Image, and here you can choose whatever resolution you want. It doesn't matter because anyway I'm going to transport it, I mean export it as a transparent box, right? So look at that, right? If you want to level it properly, you can do that as well. Like you want a box image like that, you can do that. It's up to you, right? If you want an image like that, you can do that as well. Now when you export this particular image, you've got to be very careful that you haven't enabled grid. Okay, And another thing is, if you enable transparency and say copy to clipboard, okay, you'll be probably wondering, hey, I can just copy it to clipboard and import it into Photoshop, right? Unfortunately, what happens is this. Let me show you quickly. So I've copied it to clipboard right now. So how are you guys finding it till now? You want me to go slow?
It's pretty straightforward, at least for
Yeah,
Fantastic.
it's
me.
okay.
It's very easy to
Fantastic.
understand.
All right. So, okay. See, this is how it saves with a black background, which, though I said transparent, whatever, when I exported it, it still saves a black background. So what I generally do is I choose all of these settings and then say export. So let it save as a PNG itself, wherever. All right. When you save it as a PNG, it saves wonderfully. Instead of doing copy to clipboard, you do a save uh, uh, action. What do you call the term for that, man? I can only think in terms of games. I don't know why it's taking so long. Probably I'm doing a live video as well. It shouldn't take this long, actually. Wow. Photoshop's hung. All right. So, you when you export it as PNG, this is how it comes. So you can actually resize it. You can disable the shadows and then export it as PNG, right? And you can angle it. Once you set up the entire layout, you're good to go. Okay. All right. So now we have covered how to make
Accidentally,
the.
I missed the part where you import it to Photoshop.
So basically, there are two ways to do it in photo viewer. Okay. You go here, and when you say export image, right, do not do copy to clipboard. Okay. If you want it to be a transparent background, do an export where it will basically save the file as a PNG. Okay, so when you save the file as a PNG, then it'll keep it as a transparent background. So then you can just drag and drop it into Photoshop and it'll save like this. Cool.
Yep. So
So
the shadow is with alpha channel.
correct.
Okay.
You can put whatever background and the shadow will still be there, but I would suggest you adding the shadow in post processing. But if you want it to look very realistic when you have a lot more components and then you export with all the shadows, then it'll make sense. It definitely makes it look very realistic, but I have found it that it hinders when you actually keep it in a rule book or you put it on the back of the box or a website, the shadows will get cut off in an odd way. So I generally remove all shadows. Okay.
Okay. Yep.
All right, so this is done. Next, what is in
So
the
how do
agenda?
we remove the shadow from this then?
So in photo viewer, let me just pull it up. So another awesome tool which is there is 3D paint. Okay, let me show you that as well. So you can play around with all of these lights, okay? And honestly, it's way too much effort. And the problem is once you make these settings, you can't save it, though it says save settings. Okay, you can't save it as a preset, unfortunately. So I'd rather to keep everything consistent with all the other components. I just select the preset one,
Okay,
and
okay.
yeah, it makes a lot of
So otherwise
sense.
we'll have to manipulate the light to
Yeah, you'll have to remember the
right
numbers because each one of them comes with crazy amount of details.
settings.
Uh,
Okay,
yeah,
so better
and
to just export it as
exactly,
okay.
exactly. So, it's pain. It's a major pain. So when you export it, you see the shadow which is forming there. You can remove it off. I think in PNG it comes by default, but when you export it as JPEG, oh, strange. Actually, it doesn't. It gives you this option of not rendering shadows. I don't know why it's
Oh,
not giving.
okay. So at this stage, we can remove the shadows.
Yeah, it should. Okay, there you go. So you can actually render it or not render it. Like for example, let
Uh,
me just export this. You'll get an idea. All right. So is Photoshop open? Yeah. Great. The thing is, I have multiple applications running. It's slowing down the PC.
yeah, quite a load.
Yeah. See, there is no shadow. But if I open the other one, it'll have the shadow in it. Yeah.
Got it.
Right.
Okay. Thanks.
Yeah. Anytime, man. Okay. So the next thing that we want to take a look at is how to create different components. Okay. Let's start with the basic things, right? I mean, why don't one of you like tell me so I get an idea of what all you guys would want to see? Let's start with a board,
Yeah, boards, then cards, all the
right?
basic things. Okay.
Right. So let me. So at any point of time you feel you messed up with the viewing angle and you want to get back, right? You can just say center view and it takes you back to the default. Okay. And the beauty about this app is it's super duper easy to turn it around and do stuff. It's amazing. This is the typical 3D things that you would be playing around. Again, the problem is, you won't know where it is in the XYZ axis. I generally do the settle thing, which, it settles it on the base, right? And yeah, so a couple of things that I want to show you here, which is very, very cool, is in this particular app, there is something called split, which is not there in any other application. Okay. It's not very useful in this case study, I mean, case that we are looking at, but in general, this is a beautiful tool in case you want to split a particular 3D model into two parts and stuff, right? So it gives you an option. You want to keep just the top, the bottom, or both parts. And if you split it, this is what happens. I can actually separate them out. It's so cool, right? A bloody, bloody, bloody awesome tool. And you have other stuff like simplifying, smoothing, merging, making the entire 3D model object hollow and stuff like that. Okay.
Okay, do this also include like mirror cut? Like we do any modification in the half part and it mirrors to the other half?
No, it doesn't. It'll be individually. It's split now into two pieces.
Okay.
Yeah. So you'll have to treat it. It's not connected in any way. You basically took a knife and cut it. That's it. Okay. Now, one of the things that you might be wondering, board is very easy. You can't show the folds of the board. If you really want to do that, you'll be putting in a lot more effort. But I can quickly make a board. Like assume that we decided to go with a 17 by 17 inch board. Then, I just select the file size. I'm just pulling it up. Just give me 1 second. Yeah. The only thing is, you'll have to, once you start off with one particular metric, which is then stick to for all the dimensions. So don't do 1 in inch and then export it in and all of that stuff. It messes with the whole thing. And is like the universal standard when it comes to 3D modeling. Okay. So this is 355. Okay. So one problem that I have found with this particular application is getting a rounded corner. Okay, so for that particular requirement, I use Tinkercad, which is again a free software. I'll quickly show you how that works as well. Okay, you were asking about rectangular box, right? I will show you just after making this. Okay, so I'll just insert same thing. You can do cube, or you can go to a custom thingy. All right. So X and Y is, I forgot how much, 355. So the board can be just a 2 mm board, right? Or a 1.5 mm or whatever. You can choose that. All right. Now, as you know, as you can see, it's somewhere midair. Let's settle it. And so once you say settle, right, you'll have to press this tick mark. A lot of people just, press escape, escape and go back. I've noticed that. Move it. So if you notice one thing, it's very cool. Since collision is enabled, I can't push it underneath the box. That is so awesome. Even when you move it around, right, it doesn't allow you to, like, crash into other components, which makes it extremely useful, especially when you're making a layout. So you know that the cards have to stay next to each other, tokens have to be stacked on each other. Stacking action becomes very easy. Okay, so let me just paint the texture, load the image. Let me see. Aha. And you might be wondering, oh, did it load? No, it didn't. There you go. Okay, so this particular, when you paint it, you can rotate the paint, I mean, that particular texture layer. Okay, and you can resize it, you can do all of that stuff. I would suggest don't resize it because it's a pain to keep it centered. Uh, for that reason, it's better if you put the exact dimension of the image and the 3D component that you just created, the rectangle. Okay, so this particular thing, like, assume that I want to turn it around by 90 degrees, I can turn it around, right? uh, so clockwise, anti-clockwise, you can figure it out. It's pretty easy. It's that easy. Now, one thing you'll notice is all of these cardboard sides, okay, when you actually look at it, when you do a 3D photo, it look green, right? Because that's the default color it chooses. So what I generally do is I select a white, or gray, or whatever you feel with make it look natural. And first I paint it white and then do a texture. So it allows you to do that, which is awesome. Yeah, like that. Super easy, right? And on top of this, like, for example, assume that I have a smaller card. When I start stacking on top of it, because of collision setting, it'll not go underneath that. It'll come and stop there. How much ever I pull it down, it'll just stop there. And it gives you a lot of freedom to make it very realistic. Like, you could give it a small turn just to give it like a small, nice realistic feel. I mean, we're obviously not going to stack boards, but in case you have to do it, it looks very natural when you use these particular tools. So you'll have to just familiarize yourself with respect to all of these. One is for moving, one is for rotating, the other one is for resizing. And again, just like Photoshop or whatever, you can lock it. You can choose percentage instead of and all those things are there. Hey Abhilash, you have to pay 1,000 rupees for joining late. I don't think he heard me. Okay, so super easy. Now, what's the next thing that you guys want to take a look at? Now, I was telling you about the custom shape, right? For that, I would suggest that there are two ways to do it. You can export it directly from Photoshop. Like for example, let's take this gift card, right? You have this curved edges, right? Uh, Let me make one from scratch. Okay, something. So in Photoshop, you can actually make a 3D object and export it, but they are disabling the 3D part of it. I don't know why. So assume that you have already made a card artwork, which is probably around 3.5 by 2.5 or a typical poker size. Let's assume 2.2 by uh, yeah, let's assume some 2.75 or 2.8 or something. Okay. Now, too much. A girl must be cringing right now when I'm putting these numbers. But anyway, so you can choose your, you know how to do this, right? Typical rectangle stuff. Oops. Yeah. You can actually take this particular file and say, export this particular thing, new 3D extrusion from selected layer. You can do this, but what I've noticed is Photoshop makes the edges very rough. I don't know why. It looks like as if I chiseled it out. Okay. You can take a look at it. Let me see how to rotate this. Rotate. Turn. Anyway, um, so once you make the extrusion layer, I think I'll have to choose this as a 3D workspace. Yeah. So when you do a 3D extrusion layer in Photoshop, right, it makes an extrusion of 2 inches for some reason. I don't know why. By default, that is what it does. Okay. And once you set the extrusion depth to 0.25 inch or whatever it is, you can say 3D um, export 3D layer. Oh, here you have to choose STL. None of the other things work. You'll have to choose STL and then export it. So it exports it in the exact dimension that we just created also. Okay. Even if it doesn't, we can resize it. That's the best part about it. So let me just call it card. Since it's not the exact dimension of the cards that I'll be using, the image when I paste it on this, it'll have some borders left. You'll notice that in a minute. So let me close this. It's eating up my RAM. Okay. Now super easy. I want to add a card here. Insert, add, load object, whatever the latest file I just made. Card. Ta-da! Wow. Why the hell is it importing it like this? Anyway. Yeah. So you see this red border? It's saying that the 3D file that you just imported, first of all, it is massive compared to the rest of the components. Another thing is it's saying that this object has some defect with it, okay, and it'll repair it. So if you just click here, it'll start repairing it, and that's one of the beautiful things about 3D Builder, especially if you're into 3D printing. Okay, so surprisingly, it has done a wonderful job. I'm shocked. But typically what happens is on the edge, right, it gives a lot of jagged ends, line kind of a thing. Okay, so very easy. Now I just go to objects, say settle, push it around, and immediately it'll have all the angles set here. That's one of the nice things about it. So I can make it 0. Oh, okay, that sucks. So the file itself is a little angled for some reason. Anyway, Yeah. So maneuvering around this is pretty easy. It's just like any computer game that you would want to that you're familiar with. Okay. Ah, okay. Whatever. Right. So this particular card template that we have done, the thickness is very thick right now. Right. The z-axis it's saying 100 mm, or I think since we turned it around, it will be the y-axis actually. Um, So z-axis is generally the vertical axis in 3D modeling. So we'll make this card maybe around 1 mm. It's too much, I think. 0.5 mm should do. Okay, and I settle it. All right, we have a card. Ta-da! All right, so this particular card interacts just like any other component on the board. If you place it, you know, it'll not even go through it. That's one of the good things if you enable the setting, which is collision. Yeah. And so that's as easy as making a card. Same thing, you go here, select paint, choose a texture, and paint it on top of that. It's as simple as that. Those things you already know by now, right? Okay. Now, you might be wondering, so Photoshop is one way of doing it. In case you don't have Photoshop to give you these round edges, the other option is Tinkercad. Let me just show you Tinkercad as well. Any doubts till now?
No, not for me.
Isn't it
Clear, no problem.
supremely easy? Okay, these are all things which my son has designed.
Wonderful.
Falgun,
Yeah.
does this only do extrusions or does it do other
Who
shapes
is
as well?
talking?
Abhilash.
Abhilash, I can't hear you, man. It's like bottom of the well.
Any better?
Ha.
Does it only do extrusions or does it do other shapes as well, non-extruded ones?
Which one?
Like a
Photoshop.
sphere or yeah, Photoshop.
Meaning like a
Can it
meeple?
do a cone or a spear or some other kind of shapes which are not extruded by default?
A phone.
Cone. I don't know what my voice is. Why is it bad today? I'm
I
asking
can
about
hear myself for some reason. Anyway. Yeah. You can do all kinds of shapes, but cone. See again, all of those things I would recommend using Tinkercad. Like I have already created templates for all these components, but I'll just quickly show you how Tinkercad is used. I don't know how many of you are familiar with this tool. It's super easy. It's free to use. Uh, like these are the basic components that you have, but you can go crazy. I mean, let me show you some of the things which they have already designed. So they changed the UI a bit. You'll have to go to shape generators. Initially, it used to be called other shapes, but now they've added some lot of other categories for some reason. So when you go here, there is a whole section for meeples itself. So you get a ton of custom shapes. So this is the meeple I was telling you about. You have the meeple design already, and it's crazy. And this is the best part. You can actually change them. Princess and dragon, you know, uh, an abbey, a pig for some reason. All your typical Euro games, you can just print it from here. You have all the shapes already pre-designed. You can resize it, do whatever you want. And best part is once you have this file, you can just export it as an STL or 3MF file and import it into your 3D Builder software here. That's one of the biggest advantages. Okay, so since we are here, let me quickly show you something very cool. Okay, let's assume we want a particular custom icon to be converted into a meeple. Okay. Let's see. Give me like an example. Let's say a rocket maybe. Okay. So cool. Let's make this into a 3D model. So I can just download any image I want, right? From the internet. This is a license thing. I pay a bomb for this particular thing. So you can just pick any graphic and convert it into a meeple. Game component. That's one of the biggest thing about this. And you can resize it. You can 3D print it, do whatever.
You can choose any one from the games icon.net and
Yeah, yeah. So we can actually quickly, I'll just show you how to make that as well. It's super easy. All right. Uh, let's take this one because it has a clean base. Is that the one? Okay. Let's copy to a different window. Okay. This particular file, why is it so pixelated? So I just choose this icon, go to 3D, say new 3D extrusion from selected file, and you have a 3D piece to use in your game already. And I can 3D print this as well. Now you know how easy it is. Okay. Export STL. What is this? Rocket. Okay. And immediately go here, insert, add. Ta-da! It's importing in inches, no problem. It's behind the dabba. I'll just pull it a bit forward. There you go. Now again, since it's exported from Photoshop, it's not a clean image. We can fix it. 3D modeling software does that, fixes the image. You can, since you want to use it as a meeple in your game, you can make multiple copies of it. Are you guys tempted to start making these now?
Yeah, I was just parallelly doing it just to see
Good.
how it
Fantastic.
works.
So if you want to color all of these objects in one shot, or if you want to color individually different colors, I would still recommend choose all of the objects that you want to color. Okay. And again, when it comes to objects, right, you can group them and all of those things. And you can also, select from this particular window just to see which model you have selected, especially when you have a layout which has multiple hundreds and hundreds of objects, then you better keep track of it like here. Okay. um, so I go here, I choose paint. Let's give it a nice you could actually give it a metallic finish as well. I can choose metallic. I can make these all metal. Look at that. I can give it a matte finish. I could give it a glossy finish, right? And so right now it's choosing all of the figures and doing that. That's one of the ways of doing it. And other one is, in case you want to give it a matte finish, you can pick your material here. There's so many things that you can do. It's crazy amount of features. You can, in case you want to, in Karigare Taj, we have screen printed meeples, right? Even that is very easy to do. Okay, let me just add one color for these guys. Typical red. So you'll notice that this particular icon is not attached. Okay, that will have a problem when you 3D print it actually. So this is something which I forgot to notice. This particular icon is split into three parts. I didn't notice that. But just for the demo, I think this should work. So you can really make an extremely realistic looking mock-up using the combination of these apps. Okay, and you saw how fast I was doing it, right? Once you make the component templates, it's just about pasting textures on it. So super easy. All right. Aha, my meeples are ready. How cool is that?
So this software reads it like three different parts or like one composite part?
It is one composite part, but when you're painting it and adding a texture, it takes it as different parts.
Okay.
It takes it as different surfaces.
So can we like join it in this software only, or we have to do it separately?
You could join it. You know, I mean, it's very easy. You just select a particular object which could match, take a sphere or something, and just add it and merge the whole thing into it, a sphere or a cylinder or something like that, and just join all of them together. But it doesn't matter. I mean, since it's just a mock-up that you're making, it won't matter. So now this particular file, I could just go back to Photoshop, you know, or here itself, I can fix it. This is my file. I can fix it here only, and then I do the extrusion again, import it, paint it. So it's a quick process. Doesn't take too much time. Yeah.
Falgun, I joined a little late. Could you quickly tell me once again what is this 3D software that you're using?
Okay.
You're placing these
So
meeples?
right. So this particular 3D modeling software is 3D Builder. Okay. It's
3D
a
builder.
yeah, it's a free software. Comes with Windows.
Oh,
Let
okay.
me see. Sorry.
For once, I'm regretting not using Windows and being on Mac.
Ha ha ha. Yes. Yeah. So you get this 3D Builder. It's a free software. It says age is 3 plus. Fantastic. And this is the modeling software. But if you really want to export a particular model as an image, then it's 3D Viewer. App. And it's a very, very, very powerful app for exporting images. Okay, any 3D file you can just export it off. Yeah. Now, I wanted to show you one more interesting one. Let me just save this. So in case, like for example, you want to do a GIF of your box rotating and stuff like that, right? You can do that as well. For that, you need a different software. Let me just close this. So you have 3D Paint for it, and 3D Paint comes. I mean, MS Paint now is 3D Paint. Okay, or I think it's just called Paint. I don't know what it's called. One second. Aha, Paint 3D. Okay. So you can open the same file. Like for example, we made a rocket. Let's import the rocket itself. Yeah. Over here, you can say menu and one second. I think it is export or something. Wait, let me see. Save as. Aha. Yeah. Save as video. Look at that. It starts doing the rotation for you. You can play around with the quality. You can choose your frame rate. You can make it swing left to right. All kinds of stuff.
So these are default movements that are there in the.
Correct. Correct. So you can choose your speed multiple and your rotation and all of that, and you can choose how you want to export it also. In case you want a GIF, you can select your GIF. You can angle it in a particular way if you want it to rotate in a particular way. Everything is possible and it's all free. That's the crazy part.
So I was going to ask, after the
Mm.
mockup has done, like
Hmm.
when we have created a 3D mockup in the 3D builder, like
Yeah.
is there a way to animate those 3D, that like the pieces are getting into the box and they're coming out like that?
uh, Not in this software. You can do it in Photoshop.
We can work in 3D in Photoshop.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So my this particular computer is not doing a good job at rendering 3D videos in Photoshop. You can move your camera angle, move the object from X to Y. It's basically called uh, what do you call that thing? Tweening. It's called tweening. Tweening in the sense you set the XY axis, a point A and point B, and it'll do the frames for you in between for you. It'll do the thing for
Keyframing.
you. Yeah.
Okay.
So you can do all that, but my particular Photoshop, I don't know, it's struggling to do that. So let me give you an example. You'll get an idea. So for Karigare Taj, for the KS campaign, I had to learn all of this from scratch. Um, I made a bunch of videos. I just want to show you that. Huh. Yeah. So these are some of the 3D renders. If you have actually taken a look at the video, you'll get an idea. Okay, sorry. Oh wait, this is not the 3D software. So all of these movements is in Photoshop only. This panning shots and all is very easy. I took an image and so you see this particular 3D shot. All these were on Photoshop.
Okay.
You can set your exact, I mean, point A, point B, and then export it as an MP4. It's super easy, but for some reason the Mac is extremely good at making this. So I had to do all of these animations on the Mac, export it, and then import it into the Windows computer.
Okay.
So especially like these kind of cool angles and stuff like that, it's very very easy to make it in. Look at this, like panning across, changing the camera angle, zooming in, zooming out, dolly kind of movements. Very very useful. But I generally use video editing software. It's a lot more easier to do stuff like, let me see.
I'm sure After Effects would be able to do it. The
Yeah, I mean, you can hire people to do everything, man, but we are one man army here. So, whatever is super easy for me, I just do it. So here, this particular animation that you see, right? All of this was just made in the video editing software. It's very, very easy. It's like X and Y axis. This is basics of animation. That's a different ball game. Since today we are only looking at 3D modeling,
right, right.
right? Okay. So we have taken a look at different components. Let me just quickly show you some of the things which I had to learn the hard way. I'll just pull up one of the 3D layouts that we have already created. So yeah, I mean, we are actually almost done with the session now. If you have any other questions, we can definitely take a look at it. So you can set your thickness of the tiles, thickness of the cards. If you have a round token, just put a cylinder, choose the thickness, paint the texture. It's as simple as that. That's exactly how I have done these. Okay. So all of these are like, you make the custom STL in Photoshop or wherever, export it as an STL and import into the software, paint the sides. As simple as that. It's super, super duper easy.
So you prefer the photographs of these mock-ups to be used on the back of the actual box rather than
Right.
photographs, right?
Right. Like, let me see if I have one where, yeah. So I had to do these for Chaigaram and other games because it's a lot more easier. Like, for example, you want to take a picture for your rule book or something like that, right? You want to show one particular aspect of it instead of modeling it in Photoshop. Like, Photoshop is more like a static model, right?
Hmm.
This is a lot more dynamic. I can take a picture in whatever angle I want for the rule book, right? I can zoom in onto these guys, take a picture of these guys.
That's amazing. Yeah.
Right. I mean, it's a lot more easier. Like, for example, I'm explaining about the Mela board. I can just zoom in on the Mela board, export it, and start explaining about this particular aspect. And all of these, right? Like, for example, I want to show the goal cards. I just zoom in onto that, take a screenshot. I mean, export the image, and I can explain this is how the goal cards are kept and stuff like that. So super easy. You want to show the initial setup of your game. You can just pull up, make this 3D model once, and you can reuse it multiple times.
Yeah.
So, and it's as simple as like even these stacking of cards that you notice. It's just placing one on top of the other and duplicate it and turn it a little just to give it that feel. It's that easy.
And the screens in the Karigari Taj that you had made, that is also the
Hmm.
same way the card is made. That is just
Very good question. Yeah.
oriented.
Correct. So that also, it was a bit of a jugaad, but it actually worked. I had to really work hard. Oh, okay, let me quickly show you how I made it. It's pretty easy. So once you paste a particular, okay, let me not confuse you. Just give me 1 second. Okay. So once you add the texture, right? Let me just chuck this. Hmm? This is printed on it. Okay, now even if like for example I want to make this look like a board which is folding in half, right? I select the object and say split, right? And I can choose the exact center and say keep both. So now it is split. Okay, so
Yeah.
this particular thing I can make it look like it's opening or closing and stuff like that. You'll have to play around with it a bit.
Ah, nice.
Look at that. Right, so it actually behaves like a real object. I can again split this, but don't you think this software is totally blowing your mind? It blew my mind the first time I used this.
It's very super simple, actually.
Right, it's crazy. All right, so now I have split it into 4 parts. Okay, and I can actually show it like as if since I pitched this, I can make this 0 and that thing will go flat. Look at that.
Mhm.
It's just like that. So you basically make that, slice it, move it in whatever angles, place it again. And what I typically do is once I finish making all of that, it'll be too difficult to handle all these 4 individual parts. So I just merge all of them into one particular model. You can group it as well, but grouping also makes it a bit of a hassle later on when you're playing around with it. Cool.
Just that same animation thing that I was see. Just what if we want to show this fourfold board open?
Hmm.
So that cannot be done in 3D Builder, right? But I don't
No,
think
you
that can
can't
be
do it
done
in
in
3D.
Photoshop also, right? Like this
In
board
Photoshop,
opening.
you can, but in any video editing software also you can, as long as you have these individual images as a separate file.
Okay.
Yeah. So But again, it's a pain, man. Believe me, that's one of the things which I try to avoid big time.
Mhm.
To give you an idea of what you can do with Photoshop, let me show you one of the videos I made. So this is the last thing I'll show you for today, and I hope it hasn't overwhelmed you guys. You'll get an idea of what exactly I'm trying to do.
So everything we create here just gets saved as a separate object, or so how does that work?
Yeah.
If
So if you save this as a 3MF file, the default file, right? Um,
okay,
so even if I close it and open it, it'll always be that only.
okay,
But since I merged the board, it'll be like one single file.
right. So this file will have those four spliced
Yeah, yeah. So you
sections.
can again open it and play around with it, do whatever. Like in case you want to do a different layout, you can, just edit it for whatever layout you need. Especially when you're making uh, one second. Especially when you're making like a layout for the rule book and stuff. No, it's very, very easy because now once you make the 3D model, just pull it up in photo viewer and keep taking photos in whatever angle you want, and that's it, you're done. You're ready.
Okay,
Otherwise, you know how painful it is to make a 3D layout in Photoshop, right? Choosing perspectives and all of that stuff.
right. So we open this in the view 3D viewer software, and then we can play around with the parts and then take different photos.
Correct.
Okay.
I'm not able to find that file. I don't know in which software I used, but yeah, you might have seen some of the videos where we have showed startups and beyond as a it's panning, panning, panning kind of a video. You might have seen that. So those are some of the videos that we have made using this. Let me just try pulling it up if. So all of these models, if you actually look at it, everything is using 3D Builder and Photo Viewer. It was just a matter of few seconds. Every day I would just pull up that same file, resize, I mean, move it around, and just take a quick image. Where is that video? Aha, there you go. This particular one, you might have seen it. All of this was using Photoshop, but it was, do not go down this road because it was the most painful way to make a video in Photoshop. The primary reason is, okay, let me tell you the cons of this. So basically, assume that you have done this, right? You'll have to export this as a OBJ file. Okay, you see this OBJ format, and when you import the OBJ file into Photoshop changes the axis for some reason. So here we know that it's resting on a XY uh, uh, you know axis, but when you import this into Photoshop, it'll be all ulta. It'll be like everything, it'll be like this for some reason, and this will be the table. The bottom end would be the table. So for that reason, I would select this and then rotate it. Let me show you the pain I have gone through for that, so you'll get an idea not to do it. Yeah. So just because Photoshop wouldn't show it in the right angle, I'll have to design the entire model and then place it like this. And when I import it into Photoshop, it would be flat. Okay. So It was a pain in the ass to do this, believe me. Uh, that particular, I don't know why Photoshop does that, but if you have any other 3D modeling software you're familiar with, like Blender or whatever, Blender is also a fantastic software in case you can familiarize yourself, especially for video. Like for example, movement and all of those things you were asking, you can do
Yeah.
all of that in Blender. It's a piece of cake.
So we can create the 3D files here and then export those to Blender and do the animation thing there.
That's another problem. So basically, all these textures that you add, no,
Uh-huh.
like I have added a layer on top of this tile and stuff like that. Blender will not recognize it. And even if it does recognize, it recognizes only 50% of the components, the other 50% it doesn't. So I have spent at least few weeks not sleeping, figuring out how the hell to make a video. And then I realized, it's super easy if you just take a image and pan it and explain. So it's a
Okay.
lot more easier to do that than showing an animation of things moving and stuff like that. Like for example, this particular file, I can show you right away. When I import it, half of the things will not get imported. So those are the pros and cons of. But if you do the same thing in Blender, Blender doesn't even recognize the textures for some reason. It recognizes the colors you would have added, like meeples and all you painted red, green, blue, right? That it
Right.
will recognize.
Mhm.
So, what is the happy path now, Falgun?
Good question. Happy path is so I would say if you want to make 3D modeling, static 3D modeling, then 3D builder, and if you want to take static photos, pose it in a particular angle and take images, 3D photo viewer is the best way. And in case you want to make animations and stuff like that, I would suggest you take screens, static images, and then pan them around in video. It's a lot more easier to do it in video. If you're interested, I can show you how I made those animations of cards flying in and flying out. But before that, so this is how it shows up in Photoshop. Okay, I have no clue why it has imported like this, but you get an idea, right? Basically, if you keep it standing, it'll come flat in this.
Hmm.
All right, so let me show you how that Karigare Taj video was made. Mhm. It was not easy, but it wasn't too difficult also. Why isn't the software even loading? So I have actually a monstrous computer. This thing runs at 5 gigahertz right now. But I think it's because I'm recording as well. It's doing a screen grab, slowing down my computer for some reason. So I'm very old school. I use Sony Vegas. I don't know how to use the Photoshop ones. It's just way too complicated for my brain. All right. Yeah, you might be a little overwhelmed when you see this. So this particular screen, so that particular animation, I had to literally do it frame by frame and then bring it onto the thing. It was a lot more easier for me that way. Is there a way to mute this? There is no mute button. Hmm. Oh, wait. Yeah. So this particular thing, you can actually animate it. How you animate it is, you choose your X and Y. I mean, this is what I was referring to as tweening. So I'm setting the x-axis where it should come from and where it should go to, right, in the frame, and it just animates it. And if I rotate it, basically I'm saying at point A, I want you to be in this size, whatever, and point B, when you reach, I want you to come to that particular location and stop, right? And over here, I can actually rotate this particular image and the tile will come in flying. You can actually see it. All this is in the video editing software. I'm very comfortable with Sony Vegas. I've been using it for the last 20 years. This is probably, I own this licenses for all the versions. I started from 7 or something. This is 14, I think. So it's very easy. This is what is called tweening. It makes the frames for you in between.
Oh, nice.
Cool. All right. I hope this was a interesting session for you guys.
Yeah.
And
Hey,
feel
thanks,
free
man.
to
This was
reach out.
super cool.
Feel free to reach out in case you guys need any help. Yeah.
It was amazing.
All right.
Thanks a lot
Sachin.
for the session,
Thank you,
Falgun.
Falgun. Really useful.
Very
Anytime,
helpful.
happy to help.
Thank
Always
you.
happy to
Thank you
help.
very much.
Bye
Thank you
bye.
very much.
Bye bye.
Bye.
I did not expect that free software can give this much features.
I know you don't need to buy anything. You can stack it. You can move them. It's fantastic for website
Yeah.
images.
Yes.
So I use it left, right, and center.
Thank you.
All right. Bye, guys.
Thank
Bye.
you. Bye.
Thank
Have a
you.
nice Sunday.
Have a
Bye.
nice Sunday.
And if anyone is free, we can let us start.
Have a nice one.